everybody. Thank you so much for joining me today. I just thought I'll quickly introduce myself. So I am Vicki Jones. I'm the ResNexus ambassador for the UK. I also run my own glamping site called Tracks and Cream, which I've been running for the last 10 years. I've been with ResNexus for a little over 2 years now as an ambassador, but I also use it to manage my glamping business. So let's go over the main idea that everything today is built on. AI doesn't work like a traditional search. It's not giving people a list of options to scroll through, it's giving them answers, it's recommending specific places. And that means if your property isn't included in those answers, then you're basically invisible to that potential guest. So this isn't just about ranking anymore, it's just about simply being included. Before we talk about how to show up an AI search, we need to make sure we're all on the same page about what AI search actually is and how it's different, how it's different from what we're used to. By the way, the process of improving your visibility in AI search is also commonly called AEO or Answer Engine Optimization. So at its core, AI search is pretty simple. It's just asking a question and getting a direct answer back. So instead of typing something like cabins in the Lake District and clicking through a bunch of websites, people are using full questions like, what are the best cabins in the Lake District for couples? And getting a straight answer. I find that my search, the way I'm searching has changed as well. And I will quite often change what I'm putting into Google into a question. And I think more and more people are doing that now. Because it also makes it more personalized. The AI is trying to understand the intent behind the question and recommend the best options for that specific situation. And really, the biggest shift is that it feels more like a conversation than a search. And you can ask follow-up questions and refine what you're looking for, and the AI keeps adjusting its recommendations. So you might be asking, well, what about SEO? How is this different from ranking organically in search results? With traditional organic search like Google, you're getting a list of results, usually 10 blue links on that first results page, and the user's the one doing the work. They're scrolling, comparing, clicking, trying to figure out which option is best. And in that world, your goal is to rank as high as possible so you get the click. So AI search flips that. Now the AI is the one doing the choosing. Instead of 10 options, it might recommend just a few, sometimes even just one or two. So it's not now, did I rank number one? It's did I get picked at all? And the way you get picked isn't just rankings, it's how clearly and confidently the AI understands your business and whether it trusts you enough to recommend you. Now, I want to be really clear, you shouldn't abandon SEO. You'll see posts on LinkedIn nowadays that will say SEO is dead. A lot of the things you're already doing, like improving your website content, building authority, optimizing your pages, those still help. And they do play a role in showing up in AI search. But now you have to go a step further because it's not just about ranking anymore. AI needs to clearly understand what your property is, who it's for, and why it should recommend you over other options. So think of it like this. SEO is still your foundation, but now you're building on top of that with things like better context, clearer messaging, stronger reviews, and more signals across the web. So we'll go over more things you need to do. These are just some examples. So we're going to ground it in a real world example. So we're going to use my property throughout the rest of the presentation, because then you know it's a real property and it's from me. So let's say someone searches, what is the best family-friendly glamping site in Somerset? So if we think about that for a second, if someone asked that question, whether it's on Google or in an AI tool, what properties would actually show up? If the question were about your town or city, would your property show up? This is exactly the type of search that's shifting. People aren't just browsing anymore, they're asking direct questions and expecting clear recommendations. So this is what the search actually looks like. So instead of getting a list of links, we're getting an AI generated answer right at the top. And if you look at what it's doing, it's not just listing options randomly, it's recommending specific properties. So I'm really happy that third on the list is Tracks and Cream along with some others. AI is deciding which properties to highlight, and those are the ones that the user is most likely to consider. So being one of those properties is really great. But if I wasn't listed here, I might not even be part of the conversation of somewhere to stay in Somerset with kids. So now that we understand AI search and how it's different from traditional SEO, we need to talk about why it actually matters. Because it's not just like a nice to have or something to think about later. This is already starting to change how people search, how they make decisions, and ultimately how they choose where to stay. So in this next section, I want to walk through what's happening right now and why showing up in AI search is becoming more and more important. So one of the biggest reasons this matters is because AI results are quickly becoming the first thing people see. So just like how we saw in the previous example, there's now an AI generated answer right at the top. So it's called the AI overview in Google, and it shows up before the traditional search results. So before someone ever scrolls, before they click, before they even see your website, they're already being given recommendations. And if your property isn't part of that initial answer, there's a good chance you're getting skipped entirely. This is what makes AI search so important. It's not just another place to show up, it's becoming the primary place where people get their information. The next reason is because there are less and less clicks happening on traditional search. So around 60% of Google searches end without someone ever clicking on a website, and that number is growing, which means more than half the time people are getting what they need directly from the search results or now from AI generated answers. So they're not browsing like they used to. They're not opening a bunch of tabs and comparing options. They're asking a question, getting an answer, and making a decision a lot faster. AI is starting to influence those decisions before someone ever clicks through to your site. So even if you rank well, that doesn't guarantee traffic anymore because the decision might already be made. So to be clear, people still have to click or call to actually book with you. That hasn't changed. But what has changed is when the decision happens. A lot of the decision making is now happening before they even ever get to your website. So by the time they click, they're not really comparing anymore. They're just confirming what AI has told them. So when you put all this together, this is really what's happening. AI has become a middleman. So before the process was pretty direct, someone searches, finds your website, decides they want to book. Now there's an extra layer between. The guest asks the AI the question, AI looks at the available information, and then it recommends a few options. And those recommendations are shaping the decision before someone even gets to your site. So now you're not just marketing to the guest anymore, you're also in a way marketing to AI because the AI is the one deciding whether or not to include you in that conversation. The other big reason this matters is because we're still early. So most properties are not thinking about AI search yet, and they're definitely not optimizing for it, which means there's a window of opportunity right now. There's less competition, it's easy to stand out, it's easy to get picked up in those recommendations, but that is not going to last forever. Just like with SEO, the more people catch on, the more competitive it's going to get. So the earlier you start making these changes, the easier it is to position yourself ahead of everyone else. All right, so now we've talked about what AI search is and why it matters. Let's get into the part most people are really wondering is how does AI actually decide what to recommend? Because it's not random. AI is pulling from a bunch of different sources and it's looking for signals that tell your property, like tell them what your property is, who it's for, and whether it should trust you. So in this section, I'm going to break down the main places AI is pulling from. And after that, we'll get into how you can start influencing those areas. One of the main places AI pulls is from your website. So this is where it's getting a lot of its understanding of what your property actually is. Things like your property description, your amenities, your location, all of that helps AI piece together who you are and what you offer. It also looks at things like blog content and FAQs, basically anything that helps answer common questions a guest might have. And then there's structured data, which is more behind the scenes, but it helps AI clearly understand things like your location, your property type, and features. So your website is a huge foundation. If it's unclear, outdated, or too generic, AI is going to have a harder time confidently recommending you. The next big place AI pulls is from your reviews. AI is scanning reviews across platforms like Google, TripAdvisor, and others to understand what people are actually saying about your property. It's picking up on patterns, things that show up over and over again. So if a guest consistently mentions that your place is romantic or quiet or close to a visitor attraction, AI starts to associate you with those things. It's also looking at the actual words people use. So the way your guests describe their experience is directly influencing how AI understands and recommends your property. This is really cool because this is where your guests can actually help shape your visibility, not just you. The third place AI is pulling from is what other websites are saying about you. So this includes things like travel blogs, local tourism sites, directories like Google and TripAdvisor, basically anywhere your property is mentioned outside of your own website. And this is really important for one reason, and that's trust. So if your website says you're a great place to stay, that's one thing. But if multiple other websites are also mentioning you, recommending you, or listing you, that builds credibility. AI sees that and starts to trust you more. So the more places your property shows up across the web, the more confident AI is in recommending you. So if we get into the part that you can actually control, what can you do to show up in AI search? There are very specific things you can do to improve your chances of being recommended. So I'm going to walk you through a few key strategies that you can start applying right away. So one of the best ways to show up is to build what's called topical authority. And really, all that means is you're creating content around a specific topic so consistently that AI starts to see you as a trusted source. For example, instead of just having a homepage and a booking page, you might have content about things to do in your area, the best time to visit nearby attractions, or even specific types of trips like romantic getaways or family holidays. The more helpful, relevant content you have around your location and your niche, the easier it is for AI to understand what you're an expert in. And when someone asks a question related to that, you're more likely to show up. So going back to my example of Tracks and Cream, one of the reasons we show up in those AI searches is because of this, excuse me, is the travel guide section on our website. And if you look at it, we're not just talking about the glamping site, we're creating content around our location. So things like family staycations in Somerset, itineraries for visiting the Somerset levels, family travel ideas. This is exactly what building topical authority looks like. We're not just saying, come stay with us, we're becoming a resource for people planning a trip to Somerset. And because of that, AI starts to associate us with those types of searches. So when someone asks something like, where should I go glamping in Somerset? Or what's a good place to stay near Montacute House? We're going to be part of that conversation. The next thing you can do is get your property mentioned across the web. So remember earlier when we were talking about how AI pulls from third-party sources, this is how you influence that. So the more places your property is mentioned, the more signals AI has to understand and trust you. That could be things like making sure you're listed on major directories like Google, TripAdvisor, and Yale.com. But also going a step further and getting featured on local blogs, tourism websites, or even partnering with nearby businesses so you can mention each other. Anytime your property is talked about outside your own website, it increases your credibility in the eyes of AI. So here's a real example of what that looks like for us at Tracks and Cream. These are a couple of travel blogs that's talking about us as a place to stay. And this is exactly what we're looking for. This isn't on our own website, it's someone else talking about us. And that's what makes it powerful. Because now it's not just me saying it's a great place to stay, it's a third party source reinforcing that. And when AI sees your property being mentioned across different websites like this, it builds trust. So when someone asks questions like, where should I stay in Somerset? AI is more likely to recommend properties that show up in multiple places, not just their own site. The next one is about getting more detailed reviews. And this is a really big opportunity because most people already know they should be getting reviews, but they're not thinking about how those reviews are written. So AI isn't just looking at your star rating, it's looking at the actual words people use. So if your reviews just say like great stay or loved it, then that's not super helpful. Some guests just click the 5 stars and leave it at that. But if guests are saying things like perfect romantic getaway or super close to London or great for families with kids, then that gives AI a lot more to work with. So one simple thing you can do is encourage guests to be a little bit more specific in their reviews. And when you respond to reviews, you can also reinforce those themes. So if someone reviews your site and mentions something like great for romantic getaway, then you can respond with something like, thank you so much. We love being a spot for romantic getaways here in Somerset. So now you're reinforcing that idea again. And what starts to happen is you're creating patterns in your content, both from your guests and your responses. So instead of just having random feedback, you're building consistent signals around who your property is for, what kind of experience you offer, and what makes you unique. And that's exactly the kind of information AI uses when deciding what to recommend. So you're not just collecting reviews anymore, you're actually shaping how your property is understood. And I can feel you all saying to me, but it's hard enough to get reviews as it is, let alone to try and get people to write the right kind of things in reviews. And I know it is really difficult. I've got a few tips for reviews. There's these really cool coaster QR codes you can put in, or NFC things where you can have them within each unit or each room that people can tap to leave a Google review. But you can talk to your guests and say, even on your thank you email, potentially, you could put, thank you so much. We'd love it if you could mention some real specifics about your stay with us, what you really loved about it. So you can weave things like that into your thank you email when you put your Google review link there. We've also got this great ResNexus community. So, there's loads of us here that can help each other out a lot. So the other day I went and gave a ResNexus user, she'd just gone onto Google. So I gave her a 5 star review and wrote some words on it. So we can ask each other to help us out, just being a bit more specific, because even like a couple, three reviews would help massively. I think I've said that here. Yeah. So there's another example, looking at reviews. And I want you to notice the level of detail in these cases. So these are some of our reviews from Airbnb and Google. They're not just saying like great stay or 5 stars. They're saying things like love the jacuzzi bath, excellent service, highlight was the craft hut. Like that's really specific. So this is the kind of language that AI is picking up on. And like what the experience is, what stands out, who the property might be a good fit for. So it's learning all of these things. Um, and we feature these reviews directly on our website as well. So now the information is showing up in multiple places, not just on Google, but our own site, which reinforces the signals. Don't ask me how I got these people to put these lovely reviews. I didn't specifically say to them, can you write all about the play areas and the craft hut? I think it's just the experience you curate will often make people write the things that they absolutely love. So curate the experience, and that will reflect in the reviews as well. So this next one might sound a bit technical, but it's use structured data. So structured data is basically information behind the scenes on your website that helps Google and AI understand what everything is. So instead of just reading your site like a paragraph, it can clearly identify things like your location, your property type, your amenities, things like that. Think of it like giving AI a cheat sheet for your website. And the good news is, if you're using modern website platform, a lot of this is already handled for you. But it doesn't mean that everything is optimized because AI still relies heavily on your actual content, how clearly you describe your property, who it's for, what makes it unique. So this helps support everything else you're doing, but it doesn't replace it. So here are a few examples of how your structured data could be more clear to AI. So first, your property type. If your site just says something like a beautiful place to stay, that's really vague. AI doesn't really know what to do with that. But if you clearly say something like family-friendly glamping pods on the Somerset levels, now it understands exactly what you are and where you fit. And same thing with amenities. If they're just scattered throughout paragraphs, it's harder for AI to pick up. But if you have a clean, dedicated amenity section, it's much easier to understand what you offer. And then location, like saying close to local attractions doesn't really mean anything. But if you say a 10-minute walk from National Trust Borough Mump, then that's really specific. And that's something AI can actually use when matching you to searches. So really, it just all comes down to clarity. The clearer you are on the website, the easier it is for AI to understand and to recommend you. So the next thing to do is create content that directly answers the kinds of questions your guests are already asking, because that's exactly how people are using AI. They're asking full questions. So things like, is this a good place for a romantic getaway? Is it close to Dartmoor National Park? Is it pet friendly? If your website already answers those questions clearly, it makes it really easy for AI to pull over the information and recommend you. And the best way to do this is with an FAQ, frequently asked questions section. So just a simple question and answer format, doesn't need to be overcomplicated. Just think about the most common questions you get from guests and start from there, because we'll have all had emails. My most common one is, are you pet friendly? So I've got that on our FAQs. This is our FAQ section on our website. Um, so that's exactly what we mean by creating answerable content. So we're taking real questions that guests actually have, things like check-in and check-out times, whether we allow pets, what the cooking facilities, uh, do we have a fridge, things like that. We're answering it clearly right on the website, and AI can pull that information directly from a page like this. So instead of guessing, it has a clear answer that it can use. Now, this one's a little less obvious, but it makes a big difference. Brand consistency. So basically, you want all of your information to match everywhere your property shows up. Your name, your address, your description, everything should be consistent across the web, because AI is pulling from all these different sources and trying to piece together who you are. If it sees different versions of your business to places, it creates confusion. But when everything lines up, it builds trust. The more confident AI is in your information, the more likely it is to recommend you. And this is also where you might hear the term hallucinations with AI. That's when AI gets things wrong or mixes up information. So one of the reasons that can happen is when there's inconsistent or unclear information across the web. So the more consistent and clear you are, the less likely that is, and the more confidently AI can recommend you. So if you're thinking, okay, where do I actually check all this? Here are the main places to focus on. Start with your website and your Google business profile. Those are the two biggest sources of truth. So then look anywhere else your property shows up online. Things like OTAs like Airbnb and Booking.com, review sites like TripAdvisor, Yale.com, even local tourism websites. And don't forget your social media profiles as well. Again, what you're looking for is consistency. The SEO boards would shorten it to NAP, name, address, and postcode, all crucial for consistency and how you describe a property and even how you position it. It doesn't have to be word for word identical everywhere, but it should be clearly describe the same property in the same way. Because again, AI is pulling from all these sources and trying to connect the dots. And you can ask AI, which websites are you finding information from about me? So go on to AI, ask it where, because you can also, when you do an AI search, look at the location that it's finding the information from and just check on those different sites. So this is another example of that, in fact. So this is really useful. You can literally ask AI what it's looking for. So I'll go back to Tracks and Cream again. Um, this time I went into Google's AI mode and asked, where can I get afternoon tea in Somerset? Because we offer afternoon tea experiences too here at Tracks and Cream, not just the glamping. And you can see here it gives an answer. It recommends specific places. In this case, it's the Newt and the Castle Hotel in Taunton. Fair enough, they're great for afternoon tea. I totally get it. Um, but why didn't we show up? So instead of guessing why, I'm just going to ask. So I followed up with, what does my afternoon tea business at Tracks and Cream need to do to get recommended by you first? And AI mode starts telling you exactly what it's looking for. Things like consistency, high quality specific reviews, clear signals across the web. And it pointed out really specific things like we've got a group focus on group afternoon tea, so like hen parties and baby showers, not individuals. So they would think when you're looking for an afternoon tea, it's a couple going, but we don't do that. So we've got the wrong focus for that prompt. Um, it's a bit confused with glamping versus afternoon tea. We've got everything on our website about glamping, but a very small section on afternoon tea. So it's not really going to think that that's as important as the glamping. It also mentioned about schema markup and asked me, would you like me to draft the exact SEO text, meta descriptions, and Google review prompt you can copy and paste to kickstart the optimization? Great. So instead of guessing what might be wrong, it's literally telling me what to do. And in some cases, half doing it for me. And the reason it's so powerful is because you're basically getting the information straight from the source. So in traditional SEO, you're always guessing. Google never tells you exactly why something's ranking or not. You're testing things, making changes, and hoping you're moving in the right direction. But with AI, you can just ask. You can say, why aren't you recommending my property? Or what would I need to do to be recommended in this search? And it will just tell you. Because the AI can explain the factors it's using, what it's looking for, what signal matters, um, and where something might be falling short. So instead of trying to like reverse engineer an algorithm, you're getting insight directly from the system that's making the decision. And that's a huge benefit to us because now you can take that feedback and turn it into real actionable changes instead of just guessing what might work. Okay, so I want to wrap this up with a few things you can actually go out and do right after this. Nothing complicated, just simple high impact actions. So first, add a few FAQs to your homepage or about section or somewhere. Think about the most common questions guests ask and just answer them clearly. Secondly, take a look at your property's description. Is it clear what you are, who you're for, and where you're located? If not, then tighten that up. Third, you want to reach out to a few recent guests and ask for more detailed reviews. Even just 3 can make a difference. So go to you if you've got some regular guests, if you've got some friends that are guests, go to your friends and say, leave me a really specific Google review. You can probably even write it for them and they won't mind. We will need like a bit of a kickstart when we've got a small business. So don't be afraid to ask. The fourth one is create one piece of content targeting a specific type of search. So something like a romantic getaway or things to do near your location. Or I would do something like, what should I pack for a family-friendly glamping getaway blog, something like that. I am rubbish at blogs. I have not done a blog, but I know it's something I should be doing. And then finally, check your listings across the web and make sure everything's consistent. If you do just like these 5 things, you've already ahead of most properties when it comes to showing up in AI search. So, final action item, as you've seen consistently throughout this webinar, the website really is the foundation for showing up in AI search. So everything we've talked about today, clear content, structured information, FAQs, reviews, that can all have a place on your website. So my website's built by the ResNexus websites team. So everything you've seen, like our travel guide, the content, the FAQs, the way the information is structured, that's all really intentional. And that's what allows AI to understand what we offer and confidently recommend us. And that's really what ResNexus websites are built to do. They're designed specifically for accommodation properties, not just to look good, but to actually help you get found and convert page visitors into bookings. And please don't worry if you don't like the look of my website. Our logo is very black and white, so we've got a black and white thing going on. But if you like, there's tons of different templates that you can have a completely customized website. So you don't just have to have my black and white one. But on top of being easily accessible to these AI, these websites include things like SEO optimized structure and content, mobile friendly responsive design, clear layouts that highlight your property amenities and experience, and seamless integration with the booking engine, so guests can easily book direct. So if your current website isn't really set up this way, if it's more of like an online brochure than a true marketing tool, then it might be worth taking a look. So you feel free to scan the QR code and you can connect with the website team and learn a bit more about what they offer. So that is the end of my presentation. If you have any questions, feel free to email me vjones@resnexus.uk. If you have got any questions, please pop them in the chat. I'm going to move my camera a minute and stop sharing my screen for a minute. And then if anyone has any questions they want to put in the chat, then you are more than welcome. Otherwise, if you can't think of anything specific now, or you kind of get down the route and you're starting to work on these things, then please feel free to give me a shout. Um, the other thing I was going to say is if you're using ResNexus and you're not in our WhatsApp group, then please ping me an email and I'll put you in the WhatsApp group. It's not onerous. Like you can always mute it if you don't want to hear from us for a while. But if you've got a question for anything, you're more than welcome to ask it. We've got a really lovely community. We also have drop in on a Monday morning. So 9 o'clock every Monday morning is drop in, which is just a Google Meet video call, and we just get together and talk about all sorts of random stuff, either ResNexus related or marketing related, or how things are going in the industry at the minute. So we'll talk about all sorts of things. And it's just a really lovely catch up every Monday morning and kind of keeping us all on track, really. So so yes. Well, if there's no questions, then thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you're all managing in this extreme heat wave that we have in the UK at the moment. And yeah, I hope you have really productive weeks and let me know if you need anything. And we'll see you again soon.